There's a sound so dangerous. It was banned from being played in public. Not a bomb, not a weapon. Just a sequence of tones that could crash a commercial airplane's autopilot. It was discovered by accident, covered up quietly. And yet, some claim the sound still exists, hidden in old files, forgotten hard drives, or worse, used on purpose. The first time I heard it, I thought it was a glitch, a simple 5-second audio file buried deep in an old laptop I bought at an estate auction. The computer itself was nothing special. A dusty 2010 Toshiba with a busted hinge and a faded sticker on the back that read, "Do not connect to Wi-Fi." Naturally, I did the opposite. I was hunting for old audio archives to sample for ambient music, things like static, Morse code, aviation chatter. The darker and more obscure, the better. The laptop was a goldmine of corrupted folders and half-labeled files. Most were nonsense. Old .txt files, drone flight logs, engineering diagrams. But then I found a folder named SPK14_OMIT, buried under layers of encryption and renamed directories. Inside, one file, tone_744x.wav size, 23 kilobits, length, 5.2 seconds. I clicked play. The sound was simple. At first, a soft hum, like the whine of a fluorescent light, followed by 3 quick escalating beeps. Then silence, but something about it didn't feel right. I felt a pressure in my ears, like cabin pressure on a plane, followed by a splitting headache that lasted a full minute. I closed the file, and that should have been it. But the next day, I got an email. No subject. No signature. Just this: delete the file. Do not share. Do not listen again. 744X is active. Now, I'm not a paranoid guy. I don't believe in government cover-ups or secret frequencies that control machines. But that message was sitting in my inbox, and I'd never shared the file or even opened a browser on that laptop. That's when I noticed the webcam light was on. I disconnected everything, pulled the battery, and dumped the laptop in a box in my closet. I tried to move on. 3 days later, I got a call from a restricted number. I let it go to voicemail. This is your second warning. You were exposed to tone 744X. Exposure limits are being monitored. Delete the file or further action will be logged. Beep. Now, I was scared. I checked online forums. I posted anonymously on Reddit, asking if anyone had ever heard of 744X. Most replies were jokes. But one private message came through. Stop. It's real. Do not play it again. Planes. Munich, 2006. Look it up. That was the first real clue. Searched. Munich plane incident, 2006. There was a short-lived news story about a Lufthansa flight that dropped 5,000 feet mid-air before regaining control. No crash, no explanation. The article was scrubbed from most major sites. Only a few reposts remained. Then I found a declassified FAA memo from 2007. Potential interference patterns detected at 744.04. HZ further investigation required. High priority if linked to cockpit systems. My heart dropped. 744.04J. That couldn't be a coincidence. I opened my music software, imported the audio file, and ran a spectral analysis. The tone? Exactly 744.04 hertz, with layered harmonics. I didn't sleep that night, not just because of the file, but because, around 3 a.m., a van parked across the street. No logos, no movement. It stayed until sunrise. The next morning, my inbox had one new message. No sender. Just a file. Flight_recording_744x.mp4. I clicked it. What I saw made my stomach turn. A cockpit. Static noise. The pilot calmly adjusting settings. Then, the tone. My tone. Played over the intercom. Seconds later, warning lights. The plane nosedives. Video cuts off. I shut my laptop, but deep inside, I knew I couldn't let it go. 744X wasn't just a sound dot, it was a trigger, and someone was still using it. I couldn't ignore it anymore. The video, the emails, the tone. 744X wasn't just some corrupted artifact from an old laptop. It was alive in the system somewhere. Not viral in the digital sense, but embedded, like a sleeper agent in the infrastructure of aviation that I knew I needed answers. And I couldn't get them from Reddit comments and half-deleted news articles. So I reached out to someone who'd know. Her name was Dr. Lena Meinhardt, a former audio forensics analyst who'd once worked for the Bundeskriminalamt, Germany's federal police. I found an old paper she wrote in 2008 titled Sonic Disruption and Analog Sabotage, a review of non-digital threat vectors. She hadn't published anything since. I emailed her through the only academic address I could find. Within 2 hours, she responded, "We should not talk over email. I'll be in Zurich on Friday. If you're serious, meet me at Café Adler, 10 a.m., no devices." I was on a train by Thursday night. Cafe Acute Adler was quiet, a small place near the old town square. Dr. Meinhardt looked exactly like her ID photo. Sharp eyes, silver hair tied back, a worn coat, and a posture that said she didn't care to be found. She didn't greet me. She simply asked, "You heard the tone?" "Yes, more than once." "Once, maybe twice," she grimaced. "Then you may be developing echo memory. Keep your sleep monitored. Vivid dreams, auditory hallucinations. That's when it starts." I stared at her. "What is it, exactly?" She glanced around the cafe, then leaned in. 744X is a layered frequency cocktail, harmless alone. But when sequenced with precise timing and harmonics, it creates an interference cascade. Older aircraft models, especially those with hybrid, analog-digital autopilot bridges, are vulnerable. The signal corrupts navigation stability. Momentary override? So, it was made to crash planes? No, it was made to control them. I went cold. "Wait, who created it?" she sighed. "It started as a fail-safe protocol, military grade, in case hijacked planes needed to be forced into emergency descent remotely. But like all things, it was hacked, repurposed, and buried. The original research team vanished. Some resigned, others just disappeared. And now? Now it's being weaponized, slowly, quietly, always leaving just enough doubt to dismiss it as equipment failure. I sat in silence for a moment. Why haven't more people exposed this? She slid a USB drive across the table. Because most of them didn't survive long enough. Don't use Wi-Fi. Don't play the tone. If you see the same number more than once in the same day, leave immediately. What number? You'll know it. I left Zurich with the USB in my pocket and dread in my chest. When I got home, I ran the files, encrypted. But one folder had public documents, archived audio spectrograms, aircraft black box logs even, leaked communications from an unnamed airline executive warning of a frequency manipulation breach. In 2019, and I found a document called The 5 Sightings. It listed 5 locations, each tied to a major near-miss aviation event. Munich, 2006 Osaka, 2009 Toronto, 2014 Casablanca, 2019 Anchorage, 22-2, each marked with a GPS coordinate dot, each followed by the phrase, "Tone proximity confirmed." Source unknown. I didn't know where to begin until I got a text message. No number. Just words. Anchorage still active. Do not transmit. He's on the move. I didn't know who he was. But I knew I had to go. As I booked the flight, something caught my eye. The flight number, 744. Gate, 4. Departure. Time, 4:44 p.m. 2. Many 4 south. Too close to 744. I hesitated, but then I remembered what Dr. Meinhardt said. If you see the number more than once, it wasn't coincidence anymore. It was a signal. Anchorage International was quiet when I arrived. Too quiet. The kind of quiet you notice not by the absence of noise, but by the presence of something else. Tension. Like a taut wire stretched across the sky. I had taken every precaution before. Boarding. No wireless headphones. No laptop. No phone. Even. Just a pen, notebook, and an old digital recorder that had no network capability. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. Not someone. Something. The flight was only half full. The seats around me remained empty. It was almost poetic that I had been placed in seat 7A. 7, 4, 4. Again. I sat by the window and scanned the cabin. 3 rows up, a man in a suit read a newspaper, the actual printed kind. Across the aisle, a woman hummed softly with her eyes closed. The flight attendants moved normally, smiling as if everything was routine. Maybe it was. Maybe I was the only one who had seen the cracks. We took off. The hum of the engines filled the air. My hands trembled. 30 minutes into the flight, the captain's voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached cruising altitude. Weather looks clear all the way to Anchorage. Estimated arrival in, then it cut, replaced. By 3 tones. Soft, rising, just like a .wav file. I froze. Others didn't seem to notice. The tone stopped after 5 seconds. Then silence. The captain returned. Voice steady, calm. Apologies for the interruption. Brief issue in the cockpit. Nothing to worry about, but I could hear it in his voice. That half-second delay? The tightening in the throat of someone. Holding something back, I opened my notebook and scribbled down the exact time. 1744. Of course. Then it began. Subtle change in the air pressure. The kind you feel behind your eyes. The lights flickered, and from behind me, I heard someone whisper, "He's on board." I turned. No one was there. The flight attendants moved casually through the aisles. Passengers looked relaxed, if not asleep. I stood up and made my way toward the restroom, pretending to stretch my legs. Halfway down the aisle, I saw the man with the newspaper folded up and slipped something into his pocket. Our eyes met. He nodded once. As I passed him, he slipped a folded napkin into my hand. I kept walking. Inside the restroom, I locked the door and unfolded the napkin. 5 words written. In red ink, "He's in the cockpit now." I nearly dropped it. I stepped out and made my way to the back of the plane. No one looked alarmed. But there was a different sound now. Something beneath the usual mechanical buzz. A hum. Low. Vibrating in the bones. Almost musical. I sat down again. My digital recorder, which I had left running on my tray table, was still recording. When I played it back, I heard the 3 tones, but there was a 4th one layered beneath them. Lower. Hidden. I ran a quick frequency check on my audio tool. The primary tone sat where I expected, around 744 hertz, but the 4th was deeper, almost subsonic. 444 hertz, reversed, mirrored, 744 and 444. That's when I realized 744X wasn't just a sound. It was a handshake, a signal designed to be answered. And someone or something had finally replied. Suddenly, the seatbelt light came on. The plane jolted. We dropped altitude. Not violently, but noticeably. No announcement. No warning. The lights dimmed. Then over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. We're experiencing a brief systems recalibration. Systems recalibration? That wasn't standard language. I looked toward the cockpit, and there, just outside the locked door, stood a man in a pilot's uniform. But we already had a pilot, and this one was smiling. The smiling man in the pilot's uniform stood perfectly still. Passengers didn't notice him. Or maybe they weren't able to. As I stared, the lights flickered again, and he simply wasn't there anymore. Gone. Like a mirage that faded with focus. I rushed to the back of the cabin, heart pounding, and cornered the man who had passed me the napkin. He was drinking tea, casually, as if nothing had happened. "Who is he?" I whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he leaned in and said softly, "We only see him when the frequency opens too wide." This plane was already tagged. Tagged by who? He stirred his tea, then replied, "You already know the answer. You're the one who played it." I collapsed into my seat. My brain felt like it was processing 3 signals at once: reality, memory, and something else. Something that wasn't mine. The hum returned. And then the plane tilted. People stirred. The voice over the intercom spoke again. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We'll be making a brief detour to recalibrate altitude. All systems are functional." But the tone had changed. This voice was different. Smoother. Not mechanical, but too perfect. Like a voice made by a machine trying to be human. I looked. Around. Other passengers blinked slowly, like they were sedated. The woman across the aisle no longer hummed. Her eyes were open, but unmoving. I reached for my notebook. Every time I heard the tone, the number 744 seemed to appear. Seat 7, a flight 744, time 1744. Date 4, 44 passengers. I now noticed. Not 45. Not 43. I checked the flight manifest from the airline's app. Yes, I had saved it offline before boarding. Total passengers, 45. But I could only count 44. And one of them wasn't breathing. In the row behind me. A man sat slumped, his tray table down, hands resting. Still. I nudged his arm. No response. His skin felt cool. Then I saw it. Blood from his ears. A faint trickle. Nobody noticed. Nobody cared. I needed to see the cockpit. I walked forward. The plane tilted again. Subtle, but steady. Another announcement. Please return to your seats. The cockpit is not to be accessed at this time. But the voice was flat now. EMOTIONLESS. As I neared the front, a flight attendant, pale, glassy-eyed, moved to block me. "Sir, you must sit down," I whispered back. "Do you hear the tones?" Her lips trembled. Something inside her tried to respond, but then she twitched violently and repeated, "Sir, you must sit down." I stepped back. Then the cockpit door opened. Slowly. Inside. 2 pilots sat motionless. Monitors flickered. Static filled the cabin audio. And between the 2 men, a third figure stood, back facing me, dressed in a flight suit, head slightly tilted, hands at his sides. The tone returned. Not through the speakers. In my head, then 444, then silence. And finally, a whisper. "Descend." The plane dropped fast. Oxygen masks deployed. Passengers woke in panic. But most didn't scream. They simply sat in wide-eyed horror, as if unable to speak. Only I stood. I ran back to the stranger with the napkin. "Who is doing this?" He looked at me calmly. "The signal has always been there. We just gave it permission." "How do?" "We stop it. You don't." He handed me a small black case. Play this at the right time, or everyone dies. What's in it? Tone 744X inverted. I returned to my seat. The altitude dropped again. Cabin pressure warning. Flight computers failing. And then I felt it. A shift in the air, like something was coming through. Not just a signal, a presence. The black case was cold in my hands. Lined with soft foam inside, it held a single object, an old MP3 player, the kind no one uses anymore. Taped to its back was a sticky note in red ink. Play only when the pitch drops below 440 hertz. Don't. Listen to the end. Below that, a waveform drawn by hand. Jagged. Disruptive. Checked the cabin audio recorder. The ambient hum had dropped. 439.7 hertz. And falling. All around me, the passengers sat eerily still, mouths slightly parted, eyes open but unfocused. It was like they were listening to something only they could hear. The plane shook again. Not turbulence. Feedback. I stood, pushed past the limp flight attendant, and stumbled toward the cockpit. The door had closed again, now locked, but the strange figure in the uniform was gone. Only the two pilots remained, staring blankly at dead instruments. Rain-patterned static covered every screen. Lights blinked nonsense. Numbers flickered across altimeters and displays, most of them variations of 744, reversed, multiplied, repeated. One of the men coughed up blood. Then I heard it, behind me, inside my own mind. The pilot is no longer required. I dropped to my knees. The pressure in my skull rose like something was burrowing inside my ears, vibrating behind. My eyes trying to rewrite my thoughts. The tone had shifted again. This was not just data anymore. Not just code. It was language. Alien. Ancient. Composed not in letters or grammar, but in resonance. That's when I understood. 744X wasn't a human creation. It had been discovered. Not built, by engineers maybe. Intercepted from space. The deep ocean, or beneath the crust of the earth. We'll never know. Someone thought they could repurpose it as a military failsafe. But the tone wasn't a tool. It was a door. And we had opened it. I grabbed the MP3. Player. Held it close to the cabin speaker input. And pressed play. At first. Nothing changed. Then, the reverse tone kicked in. It was like watching the world unwind. The passengers stirred, eyes darting. Screens flashed, then cleared. The lights stopped flickering. Cabin pressure normalized. Then a scream from the cockpit. The pilot on the left jerked violently, convulsing. The co-pilot gasped and collapsed forward, and the voice returned. Different now. Pained, furious. You erased the frequency. The signal has been broken. The plane leveled, the sound stopped. And then silence. Real silence. We landed in Anchorage under emergency protocols. Medics rushed aboard. Only one fatality, the man behind me. Ruptured eardrums and massive brain hemorrhaging. The airline released a vague statement. Temporary avionics failure. I was detained, questioned, and eventually let go. No one ever mentioned the tone. Not once. The man with the napkin disappeared. Dr. Meinhardt never replied to my follow-up email. The black case vanished from my hotel room. But sometimes, when I plug in noise-canceling headphones, even brand new ones, I catch a faint echo. A hum at 744 hertz. Not loud. Just present. Waiting. The final message I received came exactly 2 weeks later. An anonymous email. No subject. No body. Just an audio file. Tone _745x.wav. I haven't pressed play. Not yet, but someday, curiosity may win. And if it does, I hope someone like you is listening. Some signals were never meant to be heard. But once you've listened, you can't unhear them. Subscribe for more stories that blur the line between real and impossible. And tell me in the comments, would you dare press play?